Hey everyone. Thank you very much for signing up to the webinar, and our sincere apologies for the technical issues. Unfortunately, you could neither see nor hear us, while us hosts could both see and hear. We haven't really figured out why yet, though we've tried to solve this with Webinar Jam, but no luck so far. So we've decided to go ahead with the webinar now as a recording, and we will upload it and send it out to you all so you can view it at your leisure. We'll also be monitoring comments both on YouTube, and also feel free to send us any question via email, because of course that was part of what we were really looking forward to about this live webinar was, the back and forth with you guys. We'll have to do that another time, but for now we'll try that through comments and email. And again, our apologies for the inconvenience. Brad?
Thanks, Henrik. Well, hello and welcome to today's session, How to Survive and Thrive in China. So we'll explore and we'll share some of the hidden opportunities that we've identified working so closely with China. First up, you'll hear from Julia. Julia consults with businesses to develop their marketing strategy and go-to-market plan for entering China. She's also lived through COVID-19's response in China. Then I'll take the reins. I'm Brad, and I research and create educational content around the tech, tools, and innovations in the world of Chinese advertising. Later, you'll be joined by Henrik, a serial entrepreneur and China marketing expert who's also been through COVID-19 from the start in Shanghai. Joining Henrik will be Jay, our CEO and co-founder. Jay has extensive experience across Europe and Asia, building and developing international teams and businesses. Just briefly, what we do at adchina.io is to help international organizations and brands advertise and sell into China. Diving into things, today we're exploring three key ideas. The first is how China suffered in being taken offline for over 2 months, but they're now bouncing back after going through that nightmare. Secondly, you'll find out potential opportunities that exist during this uncertain time, and then see why those opportunities could help see you through the crisis and out the other side. So without further ado, I'd like to hand you over to Julia, who will step you through the situation in China, what has happened over the last few months, and where things are at right now. Over to you, Julia.
Thank you, Brad. Hello, everyone. My name is Julia. I'm the project manager in Go Digital China. Originally, I'm from China, but some of you may know that I'm actually based in our head office in Oslo. I came back to China for Christmas holiday in last December, and then because of the coronavirus outbreak in China and later in the world. So until now, I haven't got the chance to go back in Norway. And just because of that, I have the opportunity to experience the whole process of how China had gone through the most difficult time. And now our lives are back to normal, and maybe not completely, but I would say almost. So I'd like to share some of the data and survey results, and also my experience and thoughts about the situation in China right now. Okay, so first, let's look at this graph, which shows a clear timeline of the outbreak of coronavirus, first in China and almost 2 months later in the world. And when the crisis first started, China faces two challenges. I mean, in addition to the medical situations, there are another two challenges. First, it was during the Spring Festival, which is the most important holiday in China. And hundreds, millions of people are traveling back to the hometown to gathering with the family. And because so many people are moving around, this is a very high risk for the human-to-human transmission. And second, if you open the map of China, you will see the center of this tsunami, the city of Wuhan. It is the capital city of Hubei province, and the province is actually located in the very center of China, bordered with 9 other provinces and cities. And also Hubei is, and also Wuhan. Wuhan is one of the most important transportation hub connecting the north and south and east and west of China. So the city itself has 10 million residents and also has 5 million immigrants. So if the situation in Wuhan and in Hubei is out of control, the rest of China will not be stay good anymore. So the Chinese government first locked down the city Wuhan, and later on 80 cities in China were locked down within 3 weeks. And start from the Spring Festival, which was in the end of January this year, families canceled gatherings, all schools are closed, and most business and factories are closed down as well. Everyone stay at home for first for 14 days and then another 14 days. So far, this year's Spring Festival is the longest one in Chinese history ever. And under such circumstance, China's business activity slowed considerably, and also people's life and even the mental health being impacted seriously. You can see from the picture that the main economic indicators are all falling down from 10% to 25% during the first 2 months of the outbreak. And with a negative GDP forecast for the first quarter, many economists expect that this might be the first time since 1976 that China will experience the shrinking economy. And on people's life side, as I said previously, the virus outbreak during the Spring Festival, which supposed to be a very happy time everywhere, and people supposed to visit families and friends and dinner and singing together, and now we have to stay at home for a long time and read sad news every day. So we see the number of cases and deaths goes up quickly, and we see people are complaining the local government and organizations, and we don't know when this is going to be over at that time. So people in China are really fall into depressed. Our family was lucky personally because we don't have any relatives or friends who got this virus, but we read that news happened on other families, and we cannot imagine what if it's happened on us. But this doesn't mean that we are not being impacted at all. For example, my grandmother, she's 95 years old this year, stay in the nursing home. And during that time, families are not allowed to visit because it is very dangerous for the older people to be exposed to the potential virus. And my mother was really desperate, and she even cried for several times because of this. So what she can do is just buy something and leave it at the door and then go home. So, but finally, she managed to have a video chat with my grandma, and that is the most happiest time for her during the most difficult time. So we did experience a lot, and I believe everyone in China suffers to some extent at the beginning, just like people in the West right now. But as the time goes by, things turn to be positive gradually. The Chinese government has implemented a lot of restrictions to control the spread of the virus, and people in China are required to wear masks when you go out, and the government implements a lot of in and out pass monitor system. So for example, whenever you re-enter your building, you have to pass the temperature control. You have to download the app, which can trace where did you go. And if there is a confirmed cases near you, you will be notified immediately. And also for ourselves, we can open a map which shows in which area or which building there is a confirmed case. So my family, for example, the nearest case to us is about 3 kilometers away from my home. So we know that we are kind of fine if we stay in the residence area. And meanwhile, 40,000 of health professionals from all over China were sent to Hubei to support the local hospitals. Several new hospitals were built in a very short time, and all the government workers are standby on duty. And also lots of big companies are being asked to produce protection goods. And also the Chinese community is living abroad voluntarily to source the goods from all over the world and then ship back to China, donated to hospital. So with a really nationwide or even say a worldwide effort, finally the situation has been controlled in 2 months. And we see positive signs of recovery in both economy side and also the life side later from March. On the economy side, the government and business try to stimulate the economy. The Chinese government has published several infrastructure projects, values about 35 trillion RMB, which equals to 5 trillion US dollars. And also the government deducts the tax for both business and personal tax. And local governments give free coupons to the residents and encourage the consumers to spend more and to try to boost the consumption. And also some of the real estate owners give a 1 month free rent to the retailers or small business, like restaurants and bars, help them to get through the difficult time. And since the worst situation has been controlled for a period, we see some positive signs indicate the economy recovery finally comes out. For example, as 17th of March, 99% of business have been resumed. And also 50% recovery on the metro passengers. Also in the consumer side, the restaurants has a higher gross transactions. And in particular, the sales promotion on Women's Day, which is one of the most important promotion day in China. We see a doubled online sales as comparing to the same period of last year. And some of you may know that in the past, people in China has actually already get used to online shopping very well because we have a very efficient delivery system and also the mobile payment infrastructure. So, but because of the coronavirus, we have to stay at home for a longer period. So this kind of shopping habit has been further enhanced. And people keep shopping online, and the e-commerce business turned to be even more popular in China during this time. And a lot of business in China quickly deployed new sales channels from offline to online. For example, there's one cosmetic company where was forced to close 40 of its stores during the crisis, including all of its locations in Wuhan. However, the company immediately redeployed its more than 100 beauty advisors from those stores to become the online influencers that they can use the social media tools such as WeChat to engage with the customers and drive online sales. As a result, its sales in Wuhan achieved about 200% growth compared to the same period of last year. And this is a very good example of how the Chinese company are turning the crisis into the new opportunity. So we do see a lot of companies are proactively and quickly preparing the shift from offline to online and reinvest the resources in the digital marketing. And the new opportunities are emerging during the crisis. And I believe my colleague Brad will give you more examples in the next sessions. And there is a survey conducted in the middle of March by the Boston Consulting Group, indicate that 38% of Chinese consumers said they believe the worst of the virus is over. And also 43% said that they think China is safer from the virus than the rest of the world. And this has been proven by facts that now currently the most challenging thing about COVID-19 in China is how to prevent the virus sources from the other countries, because there are lots of people once live abroad think China is much more safer right now, so they are flying back to China, and we see most of the new cases are actually from abroad now. And it also appears that the consumers in China are adjusting to their behaviors to a new normal, even though we are optimistic about the virus, but still 87% of the Chinese consumers still say that they are changing their daily lifestyle due to the virus. And also 93% say that they are trying to avoid public space. So it's a kind of balanced situation in China right now. And because consumers in China are becoming more optimistic, so they are expected to increase their spending over the next 6 months in far more categories than the consumers in the US do. You can see from the picture, the top categories that the Chinese consumers want to buy, they're willing to buy more for the healthcare products, whereas in the US, saving is the top priority for the people right now. And talking about savings, personally, I also want to share some of my thoughts from the culture's perspective, which I believe is also a very important factor that can explain a lot that why China can recover in a relative faster way. We all know that 40 years ago, China once was a very poor country. And older generations like my grandparents and my parents' generation, they once lived in a very difficult time. So traditionally, the Chinese people has a much stronger awareness for preparing the uncertainty in the future. And because we don't have a very good welfare system, so we need to save money for the big things happened in our life. For example, the Chinese people are very obsessed on owning an apartment. So if a new couple who got married, most likely they will choose to buy an apartment or a house instead of rent one. So, and also we need money for example, decent bedding or for the children's education and for any serious disease that may not covered by the insurance. So saving first is a kind of a mentality or a kind of heritage that from our culture. And as far as I know that China has the highest saving rate in the world. So most families have some savings that can help us to survive or keep life as normal during the crisis, at least for a short period. And this might be very different from the people in the Western countries. Also, more practically, usually in China, if a family has kids, when the parents need, the grandparents will come and take care of the kids when the schools are closing. Release the parents so they can keep working without worrying about who's gonna take care of my kids and so on. So there are a lot of culture things that can help on people's life during the crisis in China. So today we are on the way of recovering. I wouldn't say that our life has back to normal completely because we are still facing a lot of challenge. And since the virus has spread quickly in the world, it is not possible that China can live alone from the rest of the world, even though we are on a good track. Our economy, especially the exports, will be seriously impacted by the global economy, and we think the impact will last for a long time. And also, we think it will take much longer time and efforts to control the virus in case another wave happens again. But we want to keep optimistic as we do see there are a lot of things that support the whole society to bounce back quickly. The government, the business, the people, gradually everyone knows what to do to save ourselves and for a better life. So I hope my sharing can give you some hope and encourage that we all will be good in the end. And I hope everyone who are listening to this webinar stay safe, stay healthy, and be optimistic. Thank you.
Thanks, Julia. So as you've just heard, China has been through hell, but they are coming out of that now. So I wanted to talk about some of the opportunities right now and give another layer of context for why China is in a uniquely strong position compared to other world markets. China has been the largest consumer market since 2015. It actually overtook the US and has continued that growth to power ahead. Part of this growth is that it's never been easier to sell into China, and that's true even now. While many countries have locked down passenger travel to and from many regions, there is no embargo on the flow of physical goods. China are also investing in their economy during this time, relaxing some of their regulations and implementing new policies to spur growth, as Julia mentioned earlier. All this is happening in the context of a global climate where the situation appears to get worse every day. There are many that are anticipating that world markets will continue to struggle with this virus for 6, 12 months, maybe longer, perhaps even until a vaccine is produced, tested, and rolled out to everyone. Yet right now, we have a huge market accustomed to buying online, with a recent substantial growth in that market of people who are excited and new to buying online on top of that. eMarketer, an organization that watches and reports on marketing trends, anticipates traditional ad spend to fall off, while digital ad spend will increase by 13%. So right now, 2 out of every 3 ads in China are already digital. A 13% increase will take that to more than 3 out of every 4 ads. China coming back online gives a lot of opportunities, as you can see here. Here's a snapshot of the signups over the last few weeks, showing the diverse interest in China. Last week, we experienced a 3 times increase of people taking active steps to get into the Chinese market. As you can see, some industries are larger than others, but there's a broad range of organizations who are reaching out to us. What this shows is a rising awareness around the globe, a rising interest in China. If you're not already thinking about this, now's a good time because lots of others are. The point I want to make here is while many are still in panic mode, we're not the only ones aware of China as an opportunity. Services can be delivered in many cases entirely online. You can't fly, but your products can fly and they can get to their destination. Likewise, you don't need to meet in person to do business. For now, we'll take a closer look at 3 industries, and later you'll receive a PDF with examples from other organizations. If you're curious to learn more about your industry that we don't cover here, feel free to get in touch with us at the end of the webinar. For now, I'd like to dive into some of the most obvious sectors. We have retail shifting to sales in China, with logistics and shipping running very close to normally. I'll share some examples with you shortly, and you'll see more later in that PDF. So I'd like to talk through these graphs firstly. As you can see here on the right, most of China is back to work. Each dark blue province is 95% to 100% reopened, and the lighter blue are 70 to 95% open. Beneath that, you can see shipping and logistics resuming nicely. The final graph on the left down here shows a massive upswing in online shopping and positive consumer sentiment that retail businesses should find exciting. A few examples of products that are going quite well right now include protein, activewear, fitness devices and trackers, health foods, and luxury goods, but that's only a very small snapshot. Because a lot of people were forced to adjust to online shopping, you have a huge population used to it, and a new population who have now discovered it and are becoming familiar with it. On top of that, there's been a huge surge in first-time online shoppers. To cash in on this, influencers on social media are doing streams to showcase certain products. This has been a thing for a while. They're paid for this promotion, but there's also been a real post-corona boom which has kicked off as well. To continue with why China is such a great place for retail right now, the barriers to enter China are still low with cross-border e-commerce. You don't need a Chinese entity to do business. You also don't need to set up your logistics entirely on your own. And if your website loads in China, you can start selling now on your current website, or you can get one set up. If you're interested in China, but you're not sure whether your website loads, we'll show you where to contact us at the end, and we can test that for you. It can be quite swift to set up a point of sale in China, and we can point you in the right direction for how to do that as well. With technology like adchina.io, advertising in China is now easy. We've made it similar to advertising on Facebook or Google. As consumption shifts online more and more, with influencers spruiking products on streaming platforms, a DIY approach is more achievable and physical distribution in stores is becoming less relevant. If you have stock not moving and sales plummeting in your home markets, China might offer a way out of that. Software like mobile apps and games have been a lot less impacted, in some cases, positively impacted, with a population that recently had a lot of free time. And I don't want to pretend that this isn't a traumatic and scary situation, but at the same time, people also want things to take their mind away from that too. Now people are back to work with a renewed interest in entertainment and other types of mobile apps. So it's now coupled with an ability to pay. I'd like to show a few stats to back that up. There was a 40% jump in app installs in the first 2 weeks of February, compared with the 2019 average. And downloads for all Tencent apps grew by 30% month over month and 43% year over year. The point here is that those levels will drop from their peaks, but new people have started using these apps, and they will continue to use these and other apps at a higher rate, as habits will be formed here that stay around for the long term. Another obvious industry that will thrive not only in China, but also in the West, is education. This is a truly global opportunity. There will be lots of people learning new things online to retrain or learn new skills in the post-corona world. This is going to happen both in and outside of China. We've also experienced firsthand a huge increase in education-related companies coming to us. With travel restricted, online options such as online education and open universities still allow students to get a Western education if that's important to them. Tutoring and coursework services are expanding as no one wants to feel left behind. Chinese schools are starting to open up after going digital. This is shifting the view of parents to be more likely to use digital tools for learning. Even in the West, schools are now running via Zoom and other apps. Parents are changing their beliefs about whether these tools can really work for education. And during this period of potential lost time and progress academically, many want to make up for that. But there's still an opportunity for other forms of education as well, like language tuition. I'd like to talk about 2 specific examples of companies adjusting into China at this time. The first is a supplement company that sells protein and creatine powder for people who want to get into shape. They've recently increased efforts in China after a period of stagnation during the lockdown. With gyms reopening across China and many people being more conscious about taking their health seriously, this company has found a solution that lets them keep selling despite underperforming home markets. What makes this especially impressive is that they're selling a physical product through a physical supply chain for a physical activity. That's about the worst combination imaginable right now. Yet creative thinking and adapting their business model allowed them to distribute and continue to make sales in this window of opportunity. To stick with the outdoor getting in shape theme, a company that sells activewear into Norway, Sweden, Denmark, Germany, they were happy in their home markets, but they kicked around the idea of China very loosely. But they were content with their European market, so they didn't take action. After experiencing a sharp decline in sales in their home markets, despite planning for a big season and stocking up on inventory, they made the adjustment and are launching into China. They are now diving into a new market, but at least it's one with greater potential than their traditional markets. For some extra examples, both related to China or other actions you can take, keep an eye out for the PDF. I'd like to now share a few words of wisdom from David Ogilvy, known best as the father of advertising. Studies of the last 6 recessions have demonstrated that companies which do not cut back their advertising budgets achieve greater increases in profit than companies which do cut back. I think that's extremely relevant to the situation we're facing right now. It highlights the importance of keeping the pedal down through the hard times, which allows you to come out on top in the good times. Of course, you need to be more careful with your money, but the logic is that advertising should not be cut back when times are hard, any more than you'd cut back any other essential ingredient in your product or service. Just to touch on a few points for why now is a good time for China, there is light at the end of the tunnel and there are opportunities to take advantage of. And more than that, there's logic and there's reason behind them. It's one thing to say what the opportunities are, it's another thing entirely to see that there's sense behind them. China's role has shifted to becoming a world-driving market, and we perceive this crisis will position China even further ahead. So much so that it's likely that the companies that leverage China to stay afloat through the next 12 months or however long this lasts, they will be in a position where they can emerge successfully from this crisis while their competitors are forced to close, struggle, or go into debt. With China doing better now, there's a chance to jump on and ride that wave. I'd like to leave you with some of the upside and opportunities to why China could not only be a lifeline for your business now, but something even more in the future. While China is still facing challenges, China is really coming back, giving international companies who are facing challenges in struggling home markets an opportunity to potentially survive and thrive. The world will take time to get back on their feet, but investing in China now may get you into a nice position, because China will be a core market and source of growth well into the future. There will also be a lot of adjustments made as we acclimatize to the new normal, when the world comes out the other side of this pandemic. So now is a smart time to get set up. Whichever route you take, I wish you the very best as we go through these difficult but exciting times together. With that, I'd like to introduce Henrik and Jay for the Q&A. Of course, it won't be live, but we have had a few questions come in. So Henrik and Jay, over to you for that.
Thank you very much, Brad. Thank you very much, Julia. Yeah, so we've got some questions coming in, and also we wanted to answer some of the most frequently asked questions we get during this time. And then additionally, as we said in the beginning, feel free to leave comments on the video or send us an email if you have other questions. So Jay, one of the questions we got is, what's your thoughts on the change in behavior, whether this is now something that's going to continue, or is there, more of a reset back to the previous behavior once things go back to even more normal than now?
That's a very good question. Thank you, Henrik. So I think there is not a either or. Of course, I mean, after everything like this, as an impact to the society, to the economy, to the politics and everything, it will leave a lot of impact behind, actually. At the same time, actually, going into the future, of course, a lot of things that we are doing now, we will not continue to do. For example, just like stay at home and other social distancing measures. But at the same time, from the experience that we have seen in the past historical events, this is actually bigger than almost ever. In Norway, for example, I'm sitting in Norway right now, and there was a TEDx event last week or the week before. I still remember one of the key opinion leaders saying this, she's a friend, that Norway is actually going through a digital transition in 2 weeks. That would otherwise take a decade minimum. So people are forced to try out new things, and then when they try out new things, many of them will stay with them. So that's basically my answer.
Yeah. So a second one we got in is, and I think this is also a very good question, is China really out of the danger zone?
I'm not sitting in China right now. Julia is probably more credible to answer that. But if you ask for my opinion, I would say no. No one is out of the danger zone until there is a cure or there is a vaccine, because this is a global thing. It's not there is not a single country or a city that can live out of it without the others actually going through what has been gone through. But at the same time, what we're looking at is that China has managed to suppress. What they have done, in essence, is to suppress the outbreak of the virus. They managed to keep China safe. But at the same time, of course, as Julia mentioned, there is definitely a risk that the virus is going to come back, because we don't know enough. I mean, I think the scientists have claimed and acknowledged that we don't know enough about the virus itself. At the same time, China cannot, as a very much global economy, China cannot cut it off from the rest of the world, and it will not, from what we are observing. They're actually very much leaning forward to make sure that everyone else is also doing well, because Chinese economy is so well connected with the rest of the world. So it's not. I don't think I don't think anyone is out of the danger zone at this moment. But China is ahead, I would say, of the world when it comes to recovery from this pandemic.
Yeah, and also on this one, I guess this is something a little more related also to our core businesses. Whether there will be any change or delay in getting set up and starting to advertise in China now compared to normally.
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yeah. So if there will be any change or delay to getting set up and starting advertising in China now compared to normal times?
No, I don't think so. From our experience, not really, actually. The Chinese digital economy is actually working very well, if not even better than before, actually. And also, as Julia mentioned, most of Chinese businesses are back in the normal status, and even I mean, we're lucky to be in the digital business in this situation. Most of the work that we do and we are involved in can be done remotely. So I don't think there is any disruption there.
And what I can add there as well is actually the only time we really felt the delays was during Chinese New Year, not because of the virus, but because our partners go home for New Year as well.
Yeah.
The next question. Which verticals make most sense at the moment besides the ones mentioned, if you have some on top of your mind?
Actually, I mean, as a company doing this for a living, actually, we were surprised to see the widespread in the spectrum of industries that are becoming aware of the opportunity. Brad mentioned that already. You saw the circle. It's pretty much covering anything. So from my point of view, I wouldn't at this moment point out any industry at this moment. The point of our core business is that you should not make a prejudiced assumption about the market. We're in digital marketing. Digital marketing is all about testing and data and iteration. That's it. So stop trying to figure out whether you are going to have a good time in China or not. Make some tests. Try it out using your existing sales point of sale, and then try to set up some easy solution for the logistics, if there is any logistics involved. If not, that would be even better. So try it out, and then make small campaigns, and then make the decision based on data, not on assumptions.
And that kind of leads well into the next question, which is what kind of ROI, return on investment, can one expect when advertising in China now?
It's probably the same answer, but similar answer. Everyone has everyone has a different version of China or Chinese market. You just have to find out yourself. What we have as a company have enabled is to make small incremental tests into the market and find out the right message, right channel, right product, right wrapping of the products for the market. The risk is very low. The investment is very low as well. I think if anyone hasn't started already, they should do it now. Yeah.
So a final question before we wrap up. So in this, it is a very unique time. How can you market with sensitivity during this time? If there's some special considerations organizations should take with China in mind.
I mean, it's not a secret that Chinese internet is disconnected to the rest of the world, and there are many regulations in China, and we do this for a living, and we suffer from it every day as well. But this is what we do. What you want to go into Chinese market with is probably the products and the services that are not heavily regulated in China. For example, financial services, any kind of financial services. It's especially cross-border financial services. It's quite sensitive in China, and also there are a lot of restrictions on medical and health claims of health products. So you have to be very careful there as well. And then beside that, animal products, you have to be clear about what kind of restrictions there are. But of course, we do this for a living, as I said. I think we can help you to figure out as well if you need some help there.
Okay. Then I think, thanks, Brad. Just to wrap up, thank you very much, everyone, for watching. Jay, Julia, and Brad for participating. We hope that this has been valuable for you and that next time it will go a little bit smoother. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.